Hi, welcome to the Pullman Police Advisory Committee meeting for August 8th. My name is Eric Tetzloff. I'm the Vice Chair and I'm filling in for Stephanie today. We'll start with roll call, starting with David.
Isabella Macon.
Craig Watt.
Angie Sender.
Joe Thornton.
Okay, so next order of business is approval of the minutes for June 6th. Are there any comments about them? If not, do I hear a motion?
I move to approve.
Second. Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. Everyone in favor say aye.
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 Abstain.
Opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Looks like the next business is new member applications. Is that okay? Normally we have the new member applications come up and say hi. Is Amy here? Yes. Okay, let's start with you. If you come up to the podium here, that would be great.
Hello, I'm Amy Ripley, and I applied for this after finishing the Citizens Academy this winter, and totally enjoyed the experience. I am a teacher here in town at Lincoln Middle School. I also coach swimming, and have also coached track and field and volleyball in the past for our school district. And I'm a parent of both a WSU student as well as a Pullman High School student. So I have a breadth of contacts and networks in town, and would love to add this one to my jobs that I can do in town or my interests. So like I said, I was very interested when I went to the Citizens Academy. I learned a lot. I've been in education for 23 years, so sometimes it's great to step outside what you know and learn a little bit more about something else. I learned a lot during the class. I learned a lot during the ride-along, and have a great respect for what our police department does for our community. So therefore, I'm interested in becoming a part of this, just to be more involved in the community, and also in something that's kind of different from what I'm used to. More learning opportunities and networking with the community. So people always ask me why I got interested even in the Citizens Academy. Even before going into education, I wanted to go into law enforcement. I chose to kind of go through education, so this is just kind of a new way of learning more about maybe where my interest would have taken me if I would have chosen a different path. Thank you.
Any questions? Does anyone have any questions?
I feel like there always has to be a question. I got really excited about the Citizen Academy. What was your favorite part? Most memorable, maybe not favorite, most memorable.
I really like the defensive tactic night, just because we could actually see how the physical component plays into the job of the police officers. And I thought that was, and it was hands-on, which I'm an incredibly kinesthetic learner, and visual, so that was very interesting. Everything was fun, but that one really stands out as one that was memorable. Any other questions? I'm Military Hill.
Any other questions?
Okay.
First off, I have to say, I remember you from my volleyball, so I think I had you as a coach.
Okay. So remind me of the name.
A what?
Remind me of your name.
Oh, Isabella Macon.
Okay, very nice.
So what's your favorite part of the community, I have to say?
I love my job. I like where I work. And right now, I think the swim team's done a great job, both the boys and the girls. So those are some areas where I'm pretty active and can just associate with. So, yep, that would be it.
I have to say, swim did amazing this year.
I would have to agree. Great kids.
Okay, well, thank you for telling us a little about yourself.
All right. Thank you.
We'll go ahead and hear from Melissa now, and once that's done, we'll do the votes on them, applications.
Hi, my name is Melissa Painter. I am an admin manager for the School of Hospitality in the Carson College of Business at Washington State University. So my constituency would be the WSU faculty, staff, employees. I also went through the Pullman Police Citizens Academy here recently. Also loved it and wanted to be more involved. I really learned a lot. I feel like it would be really important for the community to learn a lot of what I learned, and I really want to help promote some more engagement between the community and the Pullman Police Department. A little bit of experience for me with volunteering. I've been a part of a nonprofit organization for about 10 years. During that time, I spent 2 years each in treasurer, web minister, a social media officer, a year as vice president, 3 years as president for the local group, the local chapter. I've also managed about 5 different events, ranging anywhere from being a one-day event with 30 people to a weekend-long event with 300 people. So I've got a lot of experience in just kind of an outreach, event planning. I know my event planner over there, Angie. But so that's a little bit of what I can bring to the table, as well as just trying to get more interest, whether that be through social media or through like direct engagement. I'm really excited about the Pullman Police Department and getting more people involved. So yeah, just sharing my excitement.
Thank you. Any questions? Anyone?
Same question. Other than running through the CS gas. So that actually was really a great experience, something fun that I am glad I did. Really, the whole program, though, was great. I think if I had to pick a favorite, I also really loved hearing from the the school resource officer. Kind of like Amy, I've always had an interest in this. I'm also very I learned through doing, also very active person. We're both in Pullman CrossFit, so just kind of that active thing's always been really interesting. So yeah, learning the defensive tactics, doing the, the practical with the firearms and things, that was all really interesting as well. But the school resource officer has been something that is like, oh, if I ever did, I think that would be the thing I'd love to do. So learning more about that. Yeah.
I have a question for you. So I'm glad that you highly enjoyed the Citizens Academy. Can you, besides enjoying it, do you think you'll be able to provide constructive criticism to the police department?
Yeah, I believe so. And that's another thing that I would like to do, is help implement and get community voice, as well as provide my own input on when they ask questions on policy or changes. And yeah, you can probably ask Angie. I'm good at providing constructive criticisms, coming up with solutions.
Any other questions? Quick question. So
Yeah.
what hill you live on?
So I live on Sunnyside, but I would be the WSU faculty staff.
What about Rocky?
Yeah, I'd be Angie Center's alternate.
We're moving him. We got to vote on that too. Or-
Rocky had said that he would move to, I believe he's Collegeville, so
Okay. Okay. Okay, thanks. Okay. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So I would ask that Amy and Melissa, that you just step outside, just into the hallway. We will do our vote. discussion and vote, and then don't go anywhere. We'll call you right back in, so thank you.
And then can we get the recording paused?
Oh,
I know, I'm already upset. So you guys know what to expect. It's gonna be pretty close. I don't pay for the equipment, I guess myself, but the city does, so if it crashes, and, yeah. We can fly it indoors, it'll be fine. Put some prop guards on.
yeah, so Amy and Melissa, welcome to the committee. Find a spot up here
Yep.
to sit.
Find a microphone.
Yeah.
Push the button to get the green light.
Okay, so the next order of business is a presentation on the Pullman Police Drone Program. Welcome, Officer McNanny.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm Ryan McNanny, police officer with the city of Pullman, and I've been our program coordinator for our drone team for about the last 5 years since we started it up. So I'm going to cover a lot of things that I did during the Citizens Academy. It wasn't the favorites of people, so prepare yourself. What I will talk about is just kind of what guides our use of drones, what we use it for, some of the rules, regulations, and that sort of thing. So right now our department has 10 pilots, six commissioned police officers, and 4 code enforcement officers. We also can have any other officer or anybody else in the department act as a visual observer. So that's just somebody watching the drone while the pilot's controlling it. And then myself and one of our sergeants as a program coordinator. So the main drone that we're using right now is the DJI Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced. It's a lot of words there. Basically, it's got FLIR capabilities, thermal imaging. It's got a 4K camera, so it's pretty high quality. Good flight times, pretty compact, so it's easy for us to carry around and move. It's back in this case right here. This just recently replaced our older fleet of drones. You can see here, we use some of them still. The one on the far left there, we still use for 3D mapping. And then the smaller ones are good to fly indoors. They're fairly inexpensive as well, so not as much concern about having an accident with one of those and damaging it as compared to our nice drone back here. So some of the things that we are operating under, obviously we have the Fourth Amendment, which protects people against unlawful search and seizure. And obviously with the use of a drone, that could be considered a search if you're looking in somebody's private areas or areas where they would have an expectation of privacy. Washington also has Article 1, Section 7, which is a little bit more restrictive than the Fourth Amendment, but it's basically the same type of thing where we're not, without a warrant, we're not disturbing people in their private affairs. So what we operate under is what's called open view. If something is in open view, if we are able to see it from a place where a police officer is lawfully or legally able to be at, then we can use that as evidence or as part of our investigation without a warrant. Police have been using helicopters for decades now, and we kind of operate, because there is no specific laws for drones, we kind of operate under the same guidelines as a police helicopter would. Further, our own PPD policy is going to be more restrictive than all those things. We have put some restrictions in there, so we're not using drones for just random surveillance, that sort of thing. Every time we use a drone for our police department, it's mission-based. We have a purpose for it, and it's generally documented with a case number or documented in our logs. So some of the case law, I'll just cover real quickly. So you have case law. The oldest one is found that at a 1,000-foot distance in the air, fixed-wing aircraft could take photographs of things on the ground without a warrant. Furthermore, a case in the 80s found that 400-foot distance for a helicopter taking pictures of what was a marijuana grow, I believe, was found to be lawful without a warrant. Similar type of thing with the EPA versus the Dow Chemical Company. They were taking pictures using just a commercial airliner with basically mapping cameras to take pictures of that. And then one, because we do have the thermal imaging or the FLIR capability, another case up there. Using the thermal imaging, if we're going to use that for evidentiary purposes, we would need to have a search warrant for that without any sort of exigency. Basically, the courts have found that it's able to see through walls or see things that the naked eye would not be able to see. Other restrictions we have, the FAA obviously has restrictions. All of Pullman is a Class E airspace, so we do have to follow some guidelines. That means for a public safety agency, police departments, we have to either operate under a certificate of authorization from the FAA, so they say, yes, you can fly under these guidelines, or a Part 107. I'm the only pilot right now that has the Part 107 for our department, but it's very similar to the COA. It's just another portion of their guidelines. We have to fly within line of sight, so we have to have a visual observer that's always able to see the drone. Has to be, you have to have a pilot that's able to take control of the drone at all times. So when it says no automated flight, we use some automated features
but we always have the remote so we can take it over and avoid any obstacles. We can't fly above 400 feet, and then nighttime, there's other things that we have to do. We have to have bright beacons and lights on there, and we have to have specific training for flying at night. So when we got our COA, we applied for that in 2016. It was finally, well, we started it in 2016. We finally got one in 2018. It allows us to train our own pilots without having them go through the Part 107 guidelines, and it provides some other guidance for us. Before every flight under our COA, we have to get what's called a NOTAM. Basically, we're calling in and having somebody representing the FAA put out a notice to airmen so that anybody that is flying in that area can see that there's a small drone operating there too, so they know to watch out for it. They can also give us a call and tell us to land the drone if there's any conflicts or concerns. We can't fly over uninvolved persons, so flying over large crowds, couldn't fly it over Martin Stadium or anything like that. So it can only be over involved people, so that would be either police officers or people involved in the flight. Have to have good visibility within 3 miles, nautical visibility. Can't go over that 400 feet above ground level. Under the COA, we have to have a separate visual observer, so usually we just grab another officer that's available, have them come out and just say, watch that drone, tell me if you see anything that it might be getting in the way of, any obstructions or any reason we need to land it. And then we report all of our flights to the FAA every month too. Our pilot requirements, I kind of mentioned that, so we train our own pilots under our COA, and then we can also get the Part 107 licensing, which is just some tests you take through the FAA. We put all of our pilots through simulator training, so just on a computer with a controller. It's very similar to flying it in real life. Actually, it's pretty close. And then after that, we do some practical flight exams, so just making sure that our pilots know how to operate it. We know how to check for equipment failures, check for damage afterwards, manual flight, flying through different obstructions, doors, that sort of thing. And then a final exam where you can see that bucket up there. Basically, you're just trying to get into a position where you can take pictures of different numbers and letters with accuracy within a certain amount of time. So some of the benefits and why we have drones in law enforcement or for police purposes, it's giving us the ability to see something we normally wouldn't be able to because of either physical limitations or safety reasons. So if we can send a drone into somewhere where we don't want to send people in first because it's potentially dangerous, whether that's a natural disaster or even a situation where you maybe have an active shooter or something like that, we can use the drones for that purpose. Also, the FLIR and thermal imaging is great, search and rescue, suspect apprehension type uses. We can also use it to zoom in on areas. If we're able to get a warrant for an area and we could zoom in with the 4X camera on this, it would be pretty useful. We can also interact with subjects, so this does have a speaker attachment on it, so we can play recorded messages and send them to somebody. So if we needed to communicate with someone, you could do it one way. And then it's relatively low cost compared to other police robots. Some are, getting up to $500,000 for a police robot, and most of these drones you can walk right into big box stores and purchase for under $1,000. And then they have a lot of safety features built in. So if you lose connection, they're going to return to home. Batteries are low; it automatically comes back home. So they're pretty feature rich when it comes to the safety. The kind of things that we are using it for, one would be the search and rescue. That also includes trying to find or locate suspects after they flee. Crime scene documentation for vehicle collisions, getting aerial views of crime scenes. We also have software that allows us to 3D map different scenes. SWAT operations, it's good for scouting, just getting intelligence on what an approach to a potential site may look like. You can use it just for overwatch surveillance on the backside of a house, maybe where we can't have people watching. If you can put a drone up there, you can keep eyes on it. We've also used it for public incidents, public events. Our code enforcement officers have used it just to monitor traffic and parking issues on busy game weekends, so we kind of know what's going on. So there's an image of the FLIR. That's from the same FLIR camera that's on this drone here. So you can see the bright spots there, that's going to be people. So it can help you find people that would maybe not be visible due to brush or other issues. When it gets really hot out, it's not quite as useful. If the temperature is the same as what a body temperature would be, you're not going to be able to find people as easily, but it still does have a lot of use. And we can switch back and forth between the visible and the FLIR thermal imaging with just a touch of a button, so it's pretty easy to go back and forth and try and see what you're looking at. Here's some of the scenes that we've documented with it. This is a shooting from a couple years ago, but we took aerial photographs of that during daylight just to kind of map out the distance and relationship between different areas. This is a collision where a suspect fleeing hit one of our patrol cars. So we were able to get some aerial photos of that, just better documentation. The real big game changer that we've been using lately is Pix4D, which is 3D mapping. So basically what we're doing is taking hundreds of pictures of a scene from different angles, and the software is stitching it together and creating a 3D model that is accurate to within less than an inch. Got a demonstration of it here. We'll see if this plays. So this is all just based on photographs being taken. You can move the model around however you want. You notice the quality on the side of the vehicles isn't quite as good because most of the pictures came from up above. So that's what it puts together. And this one, we did some 3D models of all of our schools for training purposes. But this way we can show officers in better ways to get into a school or get people out of a school. And you kind of get a better idea of elevation differences too, so it's pretty neat. Other things we could use the drones for, riots, civil disturbances. In a lot of these situations, we may not be sending officers directly into a riot unless we know that there are people that are in risk of serious injury. But sending a drone in there, we can monitor the situation, see if there is reason for officers to go in, and then most importantly, probably just document what's going on. We can look to maybe prosecute later based on evidence that we gather from drone pictures or video. These are some pictures from our Lentil Fest a couple years ago, and then a picnic, I think at Sunnyside Park. We've used it for floods a couple years back just to kind of document some things, document damage. We did put a drone up during the flooding too to see if there was anybody that needed help or anybody that we could direct maybe the fire department towards to help out. Last thing we get a lot of questions about is drone enforcement. So people do call and complain about neighbors flying drones, that sort of thing. They don't like drones hovering over their house, which, yeah, I get. I wouldn't like that either. But we don't really have a whole lot of enforcement options at the local police level. It's an FAA thing. If there are people that are flying drones inappropriately, we direct them to report it to the FAA. The only kind of crimes that we're investigating at the local level would be voyeurism, so people taking pictures of someone in a private area. That would be a crime in Washington, and then reckless endangerment if they're flying it around people in a park or kids are flying over things that could cause a risk of harm, then we can investigate that as well. And that's all I have for you. You guys have any questions? Got to be one question, right? Yeah, so I didn't have all the case law in there last time, but after your class and you're bringing it up, I'm going to put that stuff in there, so it's good. I wouldn't say it's a per week thing. It's maybe a couple times a month. So it's really dependent on what's going on. We used them a lot recently just for getting the 3D models and pictures of our school grounds. But for specific missions or police calls, that sort of thing, it's not as often.
So given the number of pilots that spread out pretty equally across the ships,
I wouldn't say it's spread out very equally, especially since we have most of code enforcement working at the same time. That's 4 pilots that are all working at the same time right there. But I don't think there's been any circumstance where we couldn't find a pilot available to come in and get some footage. I've been called in a couple times just to do the 3D scenes, so. All right.
Well, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
And for all the information. Okay, the next order of business here is the Lentil Festival. Do you know what there is to discuss on that?
Yeah, mostly, we are hoping to have pack numbers in on both days this year at Lentil Fest. And some of you guys already signed up for the 19th, but so far no one has signed up for the 20th. So we were just hoping while we have all of our spaces here, we can tag and date again. If anyone is available to sign up for a slot. From 11 to 6 on Saturday the 20th, and from 3:30 to 10:30 on the 19th. And it looks like we have people pretty much all night on the 19th, so the 20th is probably the need.
Do you know what, briefly just remind us what we're doing?
Yeah, mostly, just kind of being there to talk about the fact of what you guys do, hand out, maybe some handout stuff in the booth. And usually the pack has only been there on Friday night and then the officers have been in on Saturday, but this year they just wanted somebody to be available in the booth with the dates.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. We can do that as well.
I've worked with before, we had a lot of people just coming and asking questions, and it's a good opportunity just to have those conversations and engage with the community.
And so if someone wants to sign up, how should they do that?
I can pass this around if anybody wants to sign up now, or you can just email me later. That works too.
Okay.
Whatever works for you guys. We're being
Whatever we do, we have to look better than the fire department.
Any other comments about the Lenta Festival, or shall we move on? Okay. So police department update. I guess turn it over to you, Jake.
Thank you. So, I think I got everybody here. Chief Jenkins obviously retired at the end of July. I should bring a mic over, or I'll just take the stand. So with Chief Jenkins retiring at the end of July, I've taken over as chief of police, somewhat unofficially, because tomorrow City Council will meet and confirm that appointment that the mayor has chosen me as the chief. We have scheduled on Friday at 11:30 right here. The mayor plans to swear me in as police chief. So that's open to the public. You're all invited if you wanted to come. So I guess that's the biggest change we're looking at right now with the police department is first, me taking over as police chief for Gary Jenkins, who's done that for 12 plus years. In addition, since I'm moving up from commander to chief, we have a new commander, Aaron Brashears, who's taking over in that role. And that trickled all the way down to a sergeant. We had a sergeant move up from patrol to patrol sergeant. So we're seeing a lot of leadership changes within the department. But I'm really excited for this opportunity, and I think it's going to go great. Our police department's great, a bunch of dedicated people, professional, so it'll make my job easy. So I'm looking forward to that. Other staffing updates,
We do have one records person that's interested in going to Whitcomb to be a dispatcher, so we'll be losing one of our records people. We have one other records person right now that's in training, so we'll functionally be down 2 pretty soon. Hopefully we can get the one we have hired in training, trained up and on her own, but we'll have to start a new recruitment process for the other records position. So hopefully we can get that done quickly. We're also still working on finding a police technology specialist. Since we lost our last one, we're trying to set up interviews right now for some people that applied. So hopefully we'll be able to finish or fill that position soon. However, that's kind of a difficult position because we use so much specialized technology that you don't typically run into just as, IT for a business or an other organization. I mean, whether it's our body cams and all of our different things that we use. So it might be a learning curve for whoever we hire, but that'll be nice to get somebody up and running in that. And then last, we still have one opening for police, well, actually 2 openings, I believe, for police officer position. We're currently doing backgrounds on one person. We have an opening for another. So we need to start recruiting and testing for that position. And we have currently Abby St. Andre is in the academy right now. She should be graduating here in a couple weeks, and then she'll go into the FTO program. And 2 of our newest officers are, they're in phase 2 of our FTO program. So they're about halfway through the FTO program. So once they're done, they'll be on their own. So that's my staffing update. I just wanted to make a comment about National Night Out. That was last week. I think it was a great hit. We're estimating probably over 300 people attended. It was down at Rainey Park. We got a lot of volunteers, and we couldn't have done it without the volunteer help. I think we had 17 staff that were able to help out from our police department. And that's notable because in years past, we always spread ourselves kind of thin with going to every hill and every park where it was held. So putting it all in one place, I think was successful. And so we're going to continue doing that every year. So anyway, again, thank you for those that helped. We already talked about the Lentil Fest booth. That's something that we've been doing for years. I would appreciate it if anybody wanted to volunteer and help out. I'll be down there, and I've done it in years past where you get a lot of people just coming and going and asking a lot of great questions. So that's always been fun. Last week I met with the WSU football team and introduced myself and talked about our department and kind of our expectations moving forward, and I think that went well. I think Coach Dickert is great. He's running a good program, so hopefully that'll be a great partnership we'll have up there. I think that's everything, and I know that I think one of you was talking about looking forward to helping out with some of our policy changes and things like that, and that's something that I would like to move forward this year with some ideas. I think there's some great policies that, when I think about, well, this is coming from me as a police officer. That's all I've ever been as a police officer, right? So sometimes it's hard for me to step out and say, well, what would the community think of this? So I'm looking forward to working with this group in some of those policies. And anyway, that's all I have. Do you have any questions of me?
Yeah, I have,
Officer Harris. He was promoted to sergeant, so now he's working graveyard patrol sergeant. All right,
yeah,
thank you.
is there any PSA plan for educating the public on how to use a roundabout?
Darby's currently working on that.
I
Yeah.
will be totally honest, I had to ask my son that just got out of driver's ed, like how to exit one, like am I supposed to blinker out? Like how does anyone know? And they didn't have roundabouts when I went through driver's
Well,
ed.
I was a little bit worried when we had an accident on each roundabout before they're even completed, so.
Yeah. Okay, because the amount of people like stop and like wait for the whole thing to clear it's been very interesting in the mornings on my commute to work, trying to figure out.
Just don't get stuck in it and keep going around and around.
We're still trying to get people to figure out the hawk beacon, so we're a little concerned about also introducing roundabouts, but we're gonna put some education on it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Final thing is constituencies poll. I guess basically, start with you, David, and just anything, do you have anything to report?
So, let's see, from the multicultural community, I don't have anything that I've heard of yet. I will say that two things that we have starting in the fall with the Pullman Police Department is we have a new research fellow that will be embedded in the police department for a 3-year term. Megan is rotating out, but she's continuing work on the COPS office grant that we assisted the Pullman Police Department in securing. And there is not a PSA, there is a recruitment video update that Megan can tell you about that she was instrumental in. So that's all for me.
I guess from a Pullman High School student, I have to say we're going back on the 31st. So that's it.
At large, nothing to report.
I don't really have anything to report for business. It was a great time down at the night out. I very much in contrast to the last time I was out on Military Hill, so.
Okay, from WSU, we have move-in is officially this weekend, so I apologize in advance if you're trying to use Walmart or a parking lot anywhere on campus, just be aware. So we are moving in officially this weekend. Then the following week is Week of Welcome. We do have Greek Row up and moving right now. It's their clean out week, so you'll start to see them in restaurants and whatnot. So if you want to go out, probably I would do it this week because we're shut down after that. Enrollment numbers are actually fairly good this year, although we've probably seen data all over the place, but I think we'll be good. Our high hopes are that we are quote-unquote normal this year, but we are going to be responsive to COVID changes as they come down the pipeline. So again, like last year, if you're hearing anything on social media or what people are saying, just please go to the WSU COVID website. That is where there'll be the real information, not what's all happening. But as of right now, vaccines are still mandated on campus for all incoming students as well. We have not mandated booster at this point in time, and we have not instituted a mask mandate at this time. That's optional. So that's all up in the air to change as numbers change. But please look at that COVID website. Did I miss anything? I think so. All right. Do you want to talk about how great your representative is and how excited you are to co-represent with me, or
I mean, yeah,
anything you want to?
how awesome my APAC leader / also, yeah.
Okay.
So very similar to what Meg did, so assisting with getting out
So an update from the school district, as you were told, school starts on the 31st. School district had a meeting with the police department back at the end of June with Officer Scott Patrick and former Chief Jenkins to talk about lessons learned coming out of Uvalde and try to be as proactive as possible. So one of the things that came out of that is the mapping that they're going to do, as well as Officer Patrick's going to facilitate getting all the officers into all the buildings, because there's been so many new officers. Several of them, many of them, have never been in any of the schools or all of the schools. So over the course of the next several weeks, Scott's going to get all the shifts in all the buildings and do a walkthrough. And the other thing that came out as a result of the issue at Uvalde, which is the officers didn't have access to a door that was supposedly locked. It turns out it was unlocked. Well, a result of that is the school district provided a set of keys for 8 patrol cars. So every car is now outfitted with master keys for all the buildings. So there will be no delay. If an officer needs to get into a building, needs to get into a room, that vehicle they're in, they're not going to wait for an administrator or custodian or director of operations to get them a key. They'll have keys in the vehicle. Again, in anticipation of what are all the questions that might be out there. Hopefully we'll never have to deal with something like that, but try to, anticipate all the bottlenecks and solve those.
Nothing new for GPSA. Happy to answer any questions about the hiring grant if anyone has questions. Yeah, hiring and recruitment video grant, yes. Do you have a question?
The question is, what is it? Will it involve the Packard community?
Yes. So the CJTC put out a grant opportunity for hiring, recruitment, and retention for police agencies to apply for. So Chief North had expressed interest in it, so we went ahead and applied for it. I worked pretty closely with Sergeant Umbright on the project. And the idea is to create a recruitment video for the police department with a lot of involvement from the community. So it's actually going to be used as an opportunity for outreach with the community, specifically underrepresented groups in the community, and kind of getting a gauge on what they want to see reflected in their community's police department. And it also just serves as a good opportunity to get out there and start making those connections with groups. And then the funds will be used to make a video, which is really important, especially because of the way the recruitment and hiring has gone. It's pretty common to use the video, so, yep.
What do you use with that videos?
They get,
Well, mainly people or departments click on our web pages, and when we can either do that on ours or on the city's HR web page. And we have actual business cards that we came up with, and we have the URL for Pullman.com, which will actually direct you to that. So we've tried different strategies to assist us in recruiting. All the
Well, thank you. Any public comment? Okay. Well, that's it for today. So I'd like to thank each of you for coming and being part of this committee. Our next meeting is September 12th. This meeting is adjourned.